Hey guys, Liv and Dave here with a very important message before you listen to this episode. We discuss some very sensitive topics such as domestic violence and abuse as it relates to the 2020 film The Invisible Man. The views in this episode are based on our own experiences and opinions. We do not claim to be experts on the subject matter. If you or someone you know may be a victim in a situation of domestic abuse, please contact the National Domestic Abuse Hotline, and you can text LOVEIS to 22522. Or if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please contact the MentalHealth.gov Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They are there to talk to you about any situation that you might be struggling with. They also have a live online chat 24/7.
Quick note that we are not in any way affiliated with these organizations, nor have they endorsed this show. These are just organizations that we think could help. Links to these resources will also be in the show notes. We like having fun on the show and generally love discussing thought-provoking films, and The Invisible Man is no different. In this episode, please do not mistake our enthusiasm for anything other than what it is. A couple who just enjoyed and appreciated this film. Thanks so much, guys, and with that, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of Pizza and Parsecs. I'm Dave.
I'm Liv.
And today we are far apart because our state is on lockdown right now.
It's very depressing.
Yeah, so we got the news yesterday. We were actually hanging out, and then Liv was doing some research and found out that it's apparently a misdemeanor to be out and about right now for non-essential tasks. We aren't quite sure yet if seeing your fiance and podcasting is an essential task.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. It kind of puts a damper in all the effort of having a spring break that I had put into work, and now I'm workless for a week and I can't come see you.
It's not fun.
No, not at all.
But hey, we're making it work. We've got remote recording set up on that Zencaster good.
Yes, thank goodness my youngest brother has a microphone for gaming and his music.
So before we were on lockdown, we had the opportunity to watch a movie we've been talking about for a while now. We got to see Invisible Man because it was released digitally, so we rented it and watched it.
Yes, we did, and it was terrifyingly amazing.
I loved this movie. It was a lot of fun in the way that horror movies are fun.
My favorite thing in the world, horror movies.
So before we get into the meat of this, I want to kind of set the stage with the background of it, I guess. So this was written and directed by Leigh Whannell. This man is no stranger to writing in the horror and suspense genre. Recently, he did the movie Upgrade, which I personally loved. I got to see it on Netflix. He also wrote Insidious 1-3, Saw 1-3, and was also just generally involved in some capacity with all 7 Saw flicks. So, with that knowledge, Liv, do you feel like you would have still been as eager to watch this knowing who the story was by?
Absolutely not. No. Had I known that going in, I probably would have been more resistant to see this movie. But I did want to see this movie. Let me put that out there. This was a movie that I did see the trailer for and was like, oh, this looks pretty good. This doesn't seem too scary. Wrong. Scared me to death in certain aspects. But I probably would have been less excited to see this movie had I known all of those details.
I feel like you would like Upgrade. It falls into more of the suspense genre for me. Anyway, what were your general thoughts on the movie?
Well, going into it, I anticipated this being kind of like a demon possession type movie, which I don't necessarily do very well at. I'm not a big fan of those movies just from personal experience of, spiritual aspects of demons and things of that nature. So I kind of went in with a little bit more hesitation because I was like, this sounds like a demon movie. But other than that, I was excited because the cast was a little bit lesser known. I know the main chick, Elizabeth Moss, was in The Handmaid's Tale. I know she was in Mad Men, but she wasn't in any like big films that I recognized prior to this. So I was kind of excited that the cast was all consistent of lesser known actors and actresses, which caught my eye at first. After that, I really liked the idea of the upgrade it got, because I do know, because you mentioned it was a movie that was originally made in in the 1930s?
Way back in the day.
I was really interested in the fact that it had this opportunity of an upgrade. And with the cinematic abilities that I think it was Universal made, because I think it was a Universal Studios movie, knowing the abilities that they had for just creating an invisible person caught my eye the most.
Yeah, this is a Universal Monsters movie. And the last major Universal Monsters movie that I remember was The Mummy with Tom Cruise. Mm-hmm. And that didn't turn out so well.
I loved The Mummy, except it scared the pants off of me.
I didn't really care for it personally. I felt like it tried to do too much. Like, it was a single movie that was trying to set up an entire universe in that one movie, as opposed to focusing on, hey, how do we make this movie the best that we can and go from there? So my point in saying that is I felt like Invisible Man was what I wanted out of The Mummy, like that kind of quality. I loved The Invisible Man. Like you said, this was originally based on a rather old flick from the 1930s. And before that, it was an H.G. Wells novel. I haven't watched the original and I haven't read the book. So I guess you could say I was going in blind. Ha, 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 ha. It's funny because he's invisible.
Good job, babe.
I also loved Elizabeth Moss's performance in this. I've adored her since Mad Men, where she kind of plays this demure secretary of a misogynistic yet charming protagonist, Don Draper. She's an incredibly nuanced actress, and I felt like she really put a lot into this role, and I felt like it needed it too. I'll end my general thoughts there, and we can do a deep dive now if you would like.
I would absolutely love to, yes.
You know, we open up with this sort of like a mystery, like, why is she running away from this house? Why is she trying to escape? And she's going to great lengths and great stress to do so. And it really built up a lot of tension around that, I have to say. Like, every loud noise, like, made me jump in that first 5 minutes or so.
Yes, I especially jumped when she kicked the dog bowl.
That was loud. That was really loud.
It was excessively loud because, like, we're met with this opening of, like, the producers and the big names that put this movie together right before the title scene with all these really loud crashes of waves, and then it went silent.
And that was, like, the first big noise that we got out of it. And I jumped.
That's okay.
So knowing what I know now about the movie, I kind of like that they didn't really explicitly spell out, like, every single detail of why she left. Meaning we didn't get a lot of details about the domestic abuse between Cecilia and Adrian.
Right.
We didn't get a lot of those details, but we got the information that we needed, in that their relationship was sort of riddled with this gaslighting and internal torment that Adrian was putting Cecilia through. I thought that was a very good choice.
I definitely agree, because it put us in this position of sympathy and empathy on both parties for a good deal of time. You know what I mean? Sympathy and empathy towards Cecilia, the main character of this movie, because you can tell just by the way she's acting and the way she's, like, carrying herself, she's desperate to leave. But I also felt a little bit of sympathy and empathy for Adrian as well, because it just gave me this sense of, like, abandonment at first. It kind of made me feel for him a little bit, because we didn't have that backstory and we didn't have that build up to, oh, this is why she's leaving. We just know, oh, this woman has now drugged her husband, supposed husband. We don't really know at this point if they're married or not. We never really know until we see the rings, right? We see this rich looking exterior, and we even see them like in bed together in this kind of endearing, like his arms around her, and it's a different way. I lost that up until she got in the car with her sister Emily. That's when I lost all sympathy for Adrian, because we see him punching a window out. We see him grabbing a hold of her. We see the terror now be fulfilled. The assumption is now made of, oh, he's not a good guy. He's pretty much a piece of crap.
Yes, I completely agree. That first 5 minutes, I didn't know whose side to take. It's not the first time that we've seen Adrian before. Actor's name is Oliver Jackson Cohen, who played the addict brother in Haunting of Hill House.
Okay.
Another great show. Once he punches out that window, things really start to come together. Like, oh, that's what we're leaving.
Yeah, I don't know many people who could punch out a car window, especially a passenger side window. Those things are thick and made to be resilient against exterior forces. I mean, it takes a lot of strength to just physically punch out a windshield, a window, I think. So when we get that moment of he's broken through, there's got to be some level of psychoticness that's behind the desire to pull Cecilia out of this car.
Right. The torment definitely doesn't stop there either, even after she leaves. And I thought that this movie did a really good job with articulating the psychological damage of domestic abuse. Like, it doesn't end when you leave that environment and you remove yourself from the situation. Like, that continues to haunt her.
Right. Yeah.
When she's at James's house, it literally going out to a mailbox is an achievement. That's a milestone. And she gets spooked by a runner.
Granted, that runner was in all black with a hood over his head. So, like...
Yeah, I guess, kind of. Yeah, you're right. I could see how that could be alarming.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's like they talked about it in the movie, how that was like the farthest that she had made it outside to that point. And like, that's like the PTSD that the Invisible Man sort of explores after she is removed from that active situation of domestic abuse.
Right. Yeah. And I thought that was a really cool, like what you just said was a really cool aspect that I even kind of explored in rehashing and thinking about this movie a little bit deeper. They could have removed the whole aspect of a quote unquote demonic presence or ghost-like presence or even like an invisible man. Just the PTSD and the torture that she's going through, knowing he's still out there walking free. That right there is a psychological thriller for me in itself. Like the first 30 minutes of this movie was just a whole bunch of like, this poor woman is literally going insane because even if her sister comes to visit, that's a threat. That brings the opportunity of him following her to this house and locating Cecilia. It was really intriguing to see the continuation and not just jump right into a thriller.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I'm glad they didn't go into additional details around what actually did happen with her and Adrian. Like, we got just enough to understand, okay, it was bad, but the movie is about her and how she is coping with the traumatic stress that she is still having to deal with after the events of leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another aspect of it that I really appreciated was the lack of visual representation that she had been abused, meaning there weren't any black eyes, there weren't any hand marks, there weren't any bruising, visible bruising on the outside of her body that alluded to, oh, she's a part of some form of domestic violence or domestic abuse. I really appreciated them honing in and really focusing in on the psychological aspect of a manipulative, she called him a narcissistic sociopath at one point in the movie. And I appreciated the fact that we didn't need physical evidence of that being a reality.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes this movie so relatable, even though we have this fantastical technology that we're dealing with in this. Like, Adrian is an optics expert and creates this suit that basically allows him to go invisible. Mm-hmm. It has cameras on all sides so that you can be invisible. It reminded me of the Vanquish from the Bond movie. The car basically would just be invisible because it had cameras on all sides. Yes. It was like that, but in person form. Even though that was a fantastical element, the characters still remained relatable.
Yeah, that was another thing I was excited to touch on, was how relatable Cecilia was, and the way that Elizabeth Moss really played that up in her character of just being this relatable person. Anybody who goes through any form of trauma can sit back and potentially see this movie and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand like her mindset on why she can't go to the mailbox, or why she couldn't sit in the same room as Adrian's brother. And when things were being brought up, that felt a little unnecessary when he was reading that letter to her and Emily. It was really cool to see like a not overplayed character in a horror film. Because I mean, if you think about it, typically when we see horror films or we see scary movies, there's a lot of times where we sit back and we're like, yeah, there's no way I'd ever act like that. Yeah, there's no way I'd ever make that decision. Yeah, why would you go after somebody like that? You know, why would you turn around and fight against something, you know, that is a ghost? You know, there was a lot of moments like that in the movie where she turned and fought because she could physically feel this individual, but I'll get into that in a minute. But it was more of I can relate to this character, so I am now more invested in this movie. Whereas when I've seen Insidious, or because I've seen some of the Paranormal Activities, it's like, okay, you're making just dumb choices. Like, no one's ever going to make a choice like that. Let's be real.
You're right.
I mean,
you're right.
I can go on and on about how some scary movies are just flat out stupid, but...
Except for The Babysitter. That is a gem and is riddled with just realness, you know? Very down-to-earth, real movie.
So much realness.
Sorry, go on.
I was impressed by the relatability. There are specific scenes that I'm excited to talk about. I want to talk about the first time that we really encounter the Invisible Man. I mean, not in the sense of like we actually physically see this invisible man or we're feeling his presence. It was that one camera shot when she was doing her laundry. James and his daughter are not in the house that I can recall. We've just learned that Adrian is dead. She's receiving all this money. She has bought James a new ladder. She has put together a bank account for his daughter so she can go to school. And they've had a grand old time. And she's doing her laundry in this, like, what I'm assuming is like an office. Because at first I thought it was her bedroom, but then I realized that she's sharing a bed with James's daughter. I was never clarified on the purpose of that. I don't know. But she's doing laundry and the camera goes from like a left pan and it goes left to right to the door. And then a good couple seconds later, we see Cecilia walk into the frame and the camera then pans back to the left side with her. That was like the first indication of like somebody is in the room that we can't see. And I thought that was like the coolest scene to introduce because there was no outline, there was no shift in scenery, there was no breath, there was no creaking sound. It was just this pan to the door, you can see down the hallway, and then here comes Cecilia walking into this frame. When typically in any form of movie, the camera follows the character. It doesn't go into an, abyss. It doesn't go into a empty room unless there's a big purpose there, but we can't see what that big purpose is. It was just super, super cool. I think it was right before the bedroom scene.
See, the first time that I caught it was when she was cooking. I think that was the first time that I fully grasped that feeling.
And I think that was the next morning after the party, because James had come in and said, "Oh, you're going to have to help her out because she had a little too much last night."
Right. But yeah, so like I thought it was interesting because she only got like maybe a day where she didn't really have to worry about anything.
Right.
Like homegirl cannot catch a break. Finds out that Adrian is dead, left her a bunch of money, and then she's haunted. Literally.
Well, and see, and I think that's what really led me to believe that this was a haunting movie, like with a ghost or a demon of some sort. Because it was so quick. And we were led to believe that Adrian was dead.
We were, for sure.
But yeah, the kitchen scene was the first time that I think, outside of that panning, because I was sitting there and I was like, that was such a really subtle but wise decision. It caught my attention. Somebody who, when I watch scary movies, I pay attention to those small details because I want to know what's about to happen so I can hide. Yeah, the kitchen scene was definitely... very interesting. I didn't catch certain aspects that you caught, though.
Yeah, in the kitchen scene, I caught the knife going missing. Although I didn't actually see the knife leave, because knives leave on their own. They just walk away sometimes, I saw the knife go away. I think we both saw the fire on the skillet.
The flame
that go
get
up.
hotter.
So both, I think that was the big explicit indication. Like, okay, if you didn't catch it in that last segment, here is your slap in the face with, hey, there is something going on here. Here's me spelling it out for you. Up until that point, I wasn't looking as closely as you were. So I missed the initial one. But now I really want to go back and rewatch it.
Like I said, it wasn't even that apparent. It wasn't even that, like, something moved or something disappeared, or it was just a really interesting camera decision to leave our character to look down an empty hallway for her to just walk back into the frame. It was just a very interesting decision. But yeah, the kitchen, it reminded me of Paranormal Activity when we notice shifting or movement in the background, but the main character in the foreground doesn't notice a thing.
Absolutely.
It was very interesting. But then we go to that night.
That bedroom scene. And speaking of interesting decisions, can we talk about that mannequin standing at the foot of the bed real quick?
Who does that? Who in their right mind puts a mannequin facing the foot of your bed? Some kind of stupid.
It's terrifying.
Somebody who's just asking to be haunted.
I'm pretty sure that's a prerequisite.
Having a mannequin in front of your bed. Oh, it was not my favorite. Because at first I thought that was a real person. Like, we're sitting here thinking like, oh, we're going to see this invisible being. They're going to reveal themselves for half a second. Great. Perfect. Nope. It was just a dumb mannequin.
Yeah. You mentioned Paranormal Activity, and they did something kind of similar to what they did in Paranormal Activity, where at this point, we're not sure what it is, but as the title would indicate, we're meant to assume it's the Invisible Man. Has slowly and suspensefully ripped the sheets off of the bed, which we saw in Paranormal Activity, but then ups the ante and starts taking pictures.
Yeah, that was freaky. But here's another thing I want to throw in there of pure, like, this is kind of ridiculous. So one, we have the mannequin, but two, I notice the smallest movement when I'm asleep, or I notice when I'm cold and my foot has escaped my blankets when I'm asleep. How do you not realize a whole entire comforter is coming off of your body? And how do you not notice big flashing? Because he didn't try to cover his tracks. He just full on used flash.
That's true. I would think in that time, like, this is an optics expert. Like, you would think that he would have some cool night vision camera.
Right? Like, he was a little dumb. Unless, and again, at this point, we think he's dead. So we're like, but then how does a ghost use a phone? That one particular thing kind of took me out of the movie for half a second. I've seen the sheets coming off the bed before. And realistically, taking pictures is a bit of a stretch. But that's just my opinion.
And then she has that tug of war scene.
Right. And this is after we've seen a butt print in the chair.
The tug of war piece was a little unnerving. I think you were just repeating the word nope several times. Like, nope, 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 nope.
Homegirl over here is like picking up the sheet off the floor, sees 2 footprints. I'm like, all right, no. Drop it, run. And then she notices the footprints are walking closer. Why are you just gonna stand there like a dummy? First off, you could have easily just thrown the sheet over the person and gotten the outline. Wiser choice. But running away is also another choice.
Okay, that's fair.
Hence my nopes.
There are several other instances throughout this movie that she has these kind of unnerving interactions with this invisible man.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the whole kitchen scene where she's fighting him for the first time after she's found the phone in the attic, that was really cool. Because at this point, I'm sitting back and thinking, possibly not a ghost, especially after we've seen the paint kind of land on this being. Because I couldn't really make out, and they did a really good job of making sure this was the case, but you can't really make out whether or not it's an actual person at this point. And the sound that it makes does not sound human. So then I went to, crap, this is an alien movie, and I hate alien movies. I eliminated that theory really quick. But that was a super cool scene of, it's like the first time we've actually fought this invisible man. And this is after supposedly Cecilia has punched Sydney.
I did not see that coming. That came out of
It
nowhere.
literally came out of Left Hook. Thank you. Thank you.
Like, they were having a moment. They were setting up a girls' night, you know? And then
Boom.
she gets punched.
Another thing about being punched, just from paying pretty close attention to Cecilia at this point and seeing her tendencies, she's right-handed. I just want to point this out. She is right-handed. And Sydney was punched on the left side. There was this part of me was like, process of elimination, yes. If I get punched, you're the only person in the room. I'm going to assume it was you. But at the same time, I was sitting there like, yeah, homegirl's right-handed though. You also were a good foot away from her, so there's no way you wouldn't have seen Cecilia reach her left arm up and come like full-on Hulk smash on your face. Like, that's kind of where it was at. But again, like, you're punched in the face, you're not going to do anything and sit there and think, oh, I wonder if an invisible being punched me in the face. You're going to assume it was the person sitting in front of you. But that was another thing that kind of took me out of the movie. I was like, if you're going to do that, like, make sure it's the dominant hand of the character, because I noticed that.
She could have backhanded her.
Yeah, but I think that would have been more obvious to Sydney if it was a backhand. Plus, she had a nice bruise on her face.
I don't know. Go gadget arm.
I'm my perspective. This is just things that I noticed.
I'm just arguing to argue.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that fight scene was really, really cool because we also get to see the strength of this person.
I think the reason that scene worked so well is because Elizabeth Moss is a pro. Like a straight up pro. Not only was she capable of bringing it with the drama and the nuances of PTSD and whatnot, but she is also able to really sell that she was fighting an invisible creature being man thing.
Yes. And I think one of the things that I admired most, because she had at this point had already started believing that Adrian somehow was behind all of this. We received the pill bottle at this point. Like there's aspects of this and there's things that have happened up till this point that only like he would know I guess, like things that she has said and things that she has mentioned, like her drawings being missing, her work being out of her briefcase, being drugged by this medicine, all of these different aspects that have kind of led us to this point. The phone being in the attic and it being Adrian's phone, all of these different things. What I loved most about this aspect was she did put up a huge fight, and it just gave me this thought of, I'm wondering how often she's had to do this against Adrian, because we're thinking, well, maybe this is somehow Adrian's ghost. This is kind of portraying a strength that he might have had, and this kind of brings me back to why she left. You know what I mean? She almost had this familiar fight back against this invisible man that we're only assuming happened before.
And I think the big turning point for her where she was like, okay, I'm taking this back, is the scene right before she figures out, okay, the phone's in the attic, where she has that little bit of a, for lack of a better term, she snaps a little bit.
Yeah.
Basically surrounds herself with coffee grounds, I think.
Yes.
I felt like that was a big turning point. I felt like something like snapped in her brain, like, okay, it's time to like actually fight this.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like that spark came from, it was like this mama bear instinct of, I'm going to protect Sydney because now whatever this is fighting against me and whatever is taunting me is no longer just taking it out on me. They're taking it out on the people I care about the most.
I think that's another really interesting thing because like we start to actually divine the motivation behind this invisible man a little bit. He is trying to isolate her. She's trying to get her to hit rock bottom. Hindsight being 2020, when she hits rock bottom, he wants to be the only option left to her.
Right. Yeah. And we see this start with the email to her sister.
Yep. Isolating her away from the people that care about her the most and that she cares about the most.
Yeah.
Like, it starts with her sister, and then it goes to the Laniers, both James and Sydney, then eventually isolating her from just a safe home environment to the point where she's in a psych ward, which I want to talk about that scene with her sister.
Oh my gosh.
At the restaurant. Like, oh my gosh.
Biggest shocking moment. I can't.
I felt like that was, okay, attempt 1 to keep them apart didn't work. I'm going to have to take some desperate measures, up my game. And that knife just pops up over her right shoulder, floating there. Oh my gosh.
Oy. It was one of those things where most of the time I can kind of map out how scary movies are going to go. I know the first like 30 to 45 minutes, I'm pretty much safe from scary stuff. Post 45 minutes, I have safe times. And I'm referring to like Paranormal Activity being a really good example. Nighttime, scary. Daytime, we're safe. It's fine. So when Cecilia is isolated, I know it's going to be a little bit scarier. Once this invisible man hits Sydney, I'm like, all right, doesn't matter. But then she's sitting in a crowded room and I'm like, all right, safe zone. We're not going to have any issues. Nothing's going to happen. I'm safe for a minute. And then you see her sister freeze, like straight up freeze. And we don't see the knife yet. And then we see the knife. And I was shocked. I was beside myself during this scene because it was like out of left field. I did not see that coming. It was done so quickly that once it was over, I couldn't breathe.
It was a very brutal splash of cold water.
Yes. Safe times gone.
Like, that's something that a horror movie needs. It needs that time to breathe. And we're led to believe that this scene with her and her sister sort of reconciling, making up, almost sensing like, okay, we're going to attack this together. And you're like starting to feel empowered. And then they just take that away from you like that.
In literally a blink of an eye.
And then Cecilia goes to
jail.
She goes to jail.
For murder. It was this moment of like floating knife, death. And she catches the knife. And I'm led to believe, like thinking about it now, I'm wondering if this invisible man grabbed her wrist and pulled it up. Because no one in their right mind is just going to catch a knife.
Oh, absolutely. That's what happened. For sure. 100%.
Because it looked so involuntary. You know, it was just like this almost cat-like reflex. Too good to catch this knife in the right way. But yeah, so she's now in jail.
We talk about turning points and snapping points, and I felt like that scene at the restaurant was sort of the beginning of the snapping point for the Griffins, both Adrian and his brother. Mostly Adrian, because Adrian is the puppet master, obviously. I felt like that was his snapping point because he starts to get a little more brazen with how he is tormenting Cecilia.
Right.
Like, that was a big risk to do that in the middle of a public place like that.
Oh, yes.
So we are at the police station. We don't really see him much again until his brother comes and talks to Cecilia and says, hey, that money, not going to happen anymore because you are a convicted felon.
Right. Which they had mentioned at the very beginning of the reading of the last will and testament, which I thought was a little bit foreshadowing, but so subtle that I didn't really think about it until he like re-uttered the fact that she is a felon now. She is in jail. She has committed a crime. Because when he read it, it was, you can have this money, but it ceased to come into your account if X, Y, and Z. And one of those being, you commit a crime.
Obviously, killing your sister is a big crime.
Just a small one.
Just a smidge. Nowhere near as serious as leaving your house during the stay-at-home order.
Right.
Anyway, right before that scene with her brother, though, we discover that she is pregnant. The Griffins find out, Adrian and his brother. And so Adrian's brother comes in and is like, we can make this all go away if you decide to go back to him and have the baby. And that is the point where all of her assumptions and detective work are validated.
Do you think she was actually pregnant?
Yes.
I don't know if she was actually pregnant.
Why do you say that?
So we're not given a timeline between running away from Adrian, being in James' house, and the death of Adrian. Like, we don't have, was it weeks? Was it months? Was it, they say it looks like you conceived a month ago. So we're assuming that she has run away within 2 to 4 weeks. Like, this is all happening within 2 to 4 weeks in total. But I'm wondering, like, the Griffins were so rich and they had so much ability to manipulate every situation that they were in. And they were able to kind of like even taunt her with, we can make this go away if you just choose to be back with him. I mean, they have an invisible suit. I'm wondering if they just changed the documents and put down pregnant. You know, like there's so many variables that come into place. Like, I don't think she was actually pregnant. I think it was just another manipulation tactic.
I think it was both. I think that he was actually in the house when she said, if I had gotten pregnant, then I would have stayed with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was in the house during that time. And then he used his invisible suit to be extra sketchy. Then she's pregnant. Now she's put in this difficult situation. Her brother comes and is, giving her an out. That's my theory.
Okay.
I don't think that's the big takeaway from this. I think it's the lengths that Adrian will go to get her back and to manipulate her and to control her.
Right.
Which at this point, she's already snapped and she's already ready to fight back. And that much is clear.
Yeah.
We start getting a lot more scuffles between the two of them, where she ends up getting out of her cell by attempting to kill herself. The Invisible Man stops her. They scuffle. Security guard comes in. And then the Invisible Man starts having scuffles with people who are not Cecilia.
Right.
And that's when things get real, because now he's like actually going after normal people, I guess.
Yeah. And I think what was really cool is now we finally have been introduced to this is some form of technology. They had made comments in a couple of camera choices towards the particular room that had nothing in it before, but she takes the pin that she was like harming herself with and hits the Invisible Man several times. So we now see that this isn't an alien. This is somebody in a suit. This is not a demon. This is actually happening. This is all really, really real.
It reminded me a lot of Predator. And with Predator, he has cloaking technology. And sometimes that cloaking technology fails and you get kind of that staticky in and out sort of thing that allows you to kind of see parts of him from time to time. It looks like it's fading in and out. And we got that with the Invisible Man. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, he's a predator, literally.
I was going to say quite literally. But I think that's one of the things that I absolutely loved about this movie is because I have seen the Predator's cloaking abilities. I've seen that technology utilized in that movie for that particular character in Predator. And I appreciated the fact that they didn't do that in The Invisible Man. They didn't glitch it out to where the scenery behind him looked skewed. It was, we saw the actual suit. We saw portions of the suit glitch while other parts stayed invisible. It was really cool because that's what I was mostly worried about when looking into The Invisible Man and wanting to see The Invisible Man. My mind went to, well, if this is somebody in a suit, just preparing myself for whatever scary thing we could be watching. I hope it's not the same kind of funhouse mirror effect that the Predator has.
So kind of skipping forward a little bit to the boss fight back at the Lanier's house, we come to discover it's not actually Adrian in that suit. It's Adrian's brother.
Right.
Adrian's brother is kicking some serious butt in the Lanier house. James is completely down, and Cecilia rolls up in there and shoots Adrian's brother several times, takes off the mask. We're expected to see Adrian, but it's not him.
Right.
Now, Cecilia is more or less off the hook. But we also discover something else. We also find out that Adrian is actually alive and sets it up in such a way that Adrian's brother is actually the one that's been orchestrating this entire thing. Faked Adrian's death, has been tormenting Cecilia, all in an effort to get Adrian's money.
Right. And so there's this like full circle moment of just this potential sympathy towards Adrian because we're led to believe he's been kidnapped this whole time. We do at this point know there are two suits. I just want to point that out really quick because Cecilia has gone to the house that she used to live in and has discovered that it's a suit. Why she didn't take the suit in the first place, I don't know. That would have made more sense. I guess she couldn't because there was a second suit being used in that house at the current time. But yeah, we're kind of brought back to this moment of sympathy and empathy for Adrian, because for a second or two, we're made to believe like he has been stuck in his house in this little crawl space because the SWAT team has gone in, beaten and dirty in this little hole, and everything is done by his brother Tom. Like, his brother has like manipulated all this so he can gain this, I think it was $10 million that she was going to receive, like $100,000 a month for 4 years, something along those lines. It all added up somehow. And the best way he could have gotten to that is frame Cecilia to be a criminal and then receive the money himself. So we're brought to this moment of, okay, well, maybe Adrian isn't a bad guy. So why did she actually run away? What was actually happening? So yeah, I thought that was a really cool moment, but it didn't last.
No, it did not.
Not at all. So she calls Adrian and is like, we need to talk. She goes to the house and we're led to believe that she is there on her own accord. My first thought was she's going to go in that house and she's going to like go back to him. Like, all of this trauma, she's going to believe him and it's going to be over. And then I'm going to be completely removed from Cecilia being a relatable character. For me personally, I know psychologically going back to your quote unquote safest mental state is a tendency that happens. And I understand that. But I was like, I really hope she doesn't go back to Adrian, because while I feel kind of sympathetic for him, something ain't right. And he sits there and he has all of her favorite foods because he doesn't know what to buy her and he feels so bad. And she's like, you can have full access to my child. You can be a part of this child's life. All you have to do is tell me the truth. Did you have something to do with this? And he says no. And he denies it and denies it and denies it. And he walks over to her and squats down and he says something but ends the sentence with surprised. And the way he enunciates and says surprised, you see the confirmation in Cecilia's face of, yep, you had everything to do with this. You are the person who's been following him around. You sent your brother out just in case I got wise, killed him off. You got yourself stuck in this hole. Everything's is framed. She's like, I'm going to go clean myself up. Grabs the second suit and makes him kill himself. All while being recorded.
Yes, and during this scene, we're actually, like, as she is trying to elicit that confession, we also get the feeling that she is working with the police to implicate Adrian. Mm-hmm. The other point I want to make is the surprise line was taken from earlier in the movie when she got a text message from Adrian's phone.
Right. And then later on in the fight scene when he says it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That single word was confirmation that gave her the validation that she needed, that she was not crazy, that she was right this whole time. And I want to ask you, how do you feel about her killing Adrian?
The advocate for taking the higher road and being kind of like the bigger person sits back and thinks like, eventually karma's going to catch up to him. She's going to be safe. You know, there's going to be this level of security built around her because the people who need to know that they were after, you know, Cecilia this whole time are in the house with her. So the advocate for being, you know, the bigger person sits back and says, okay, like, we didn't need to do it. The part of me that is like, justice needs to be served was like, good for you, girl. Like, yes, put that suit on, make it look like to that camera that he killed himself, walk away with the suit and be like, I was hoping that house would explode behind her. Like, let's go out with the biggest bang possible. So I had two different feelings on it. Like, I would have been satisfied with either ending.
I'm still conflicted about how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Much like you.
I think they could have done either and would have left me satisfied at the end of the movie.
I think the message was her getting her power back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we got that message from her character because I do love her character.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if actually killing him was the move that needed to be made to communicate that message.
Yeah. I think the ending was more vindictive than our character has been portrayed throughout this entire time because of the route she went to kill him.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of bothers me. Like, that move seemed a little out of character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a happy message of I got my power back, like I got my groove back.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your final thoughts on this? Or do you have other thoughts?
I thought there were a couple of things that just seemed a little... It was played up as like we need this kind of scene, so let's put it in there. One being the scene where she's sitting with James and the other detective being questioned. It removed me from the movie just a smidge, just because it kind of seemed forced and uncomfortably placed. I felt like that could have been an extended scene and not so much an actual scene in the movie. But that's just my opinion. I felt like it didn't take the movie anywhere except for the fact that we had James looking at Cecilia in a different light because he doesn't know what to believe, which was nice, but I think we already had that moment when we were led to believe that Cecilia punched Sydney. That was really like the only scene that kind of, other than the one I mentioned prior, that pulled me out of the movie just a smidge. But overall, I really did enjoy this movie. I thought it was well done. I thought it had a really clear cut intention behind it. It was just the right amount of scary to make me want to hide half the time, but not too much where I wouldn't watch it again.
Good points, for sure. Here's my final thoughts. This movie had a lot of authenticity to it. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a naturally unsettling look at the psychological terrors behind domestic abuse. Mm-hmm. I thought the fact that we're examining that in a movie called The Invisible Man was especially appropriate. Much like the villain of this film, the deepest wounds and scars of domestic abuse are unseen. And the only way to sort of resolve those and work through them and to, get your groove back is to reveal them and bring those things to light.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's a really good point.
At the end of the day, I thought that message was very empowering.
I agree. I think that was, and it was a very clear message because, I had hinted at it before, and like you were saying, there was still that constant fear of domestic violence and domestic abuse, even before we had the Invisible Man taunting that. So it was really intriguing movie, and it's one that I even went home and recommended and told my family, like, yeah, you guys should totally watch this. This was worth a watch.
It was good, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's one that I want to go back and watch again because I want to see if there's anything I didn't catch the first time, now that I know the tells of the Invisible Man.
Yes, I really want to do that too, actually.
Yeah.
Are you ready to move on?
Yeah.
So we posed a question on our Twitter and Facebook asking you, listener, to caption a GIF. And this particular GIF is a Batman GIF where he is recoiling in horror, as if very shocked and repulsed by something. And we want to talk about some of the responses that we've got. We didn't get that many, so I think we could actually roll through all of these.
Sweet.
Let's just take it from the top. We had at Radio Rebel Pod saying me at the end of every Tiger King episode, which I thought that was amazing. We talked about Tiger King on our last quarantine cast. That was for sure me at the end of every Tiger King episode, and frankly, me during every Tiger King episode.
Absolutely. The next one we got was from the Galactic Podcast at the Galactic Pod. Some fun friends of ours. Their caption was, "You're telling me Star Wars isn't real?" I thought that was pretty funny.
That was awesome. I know I would recoil as Batman is in this GIF if someone told me Star Wars wasn't real.
Yeah, definitely.
Star Wars is real.
Oh, hands down.
Harry Potter is real. It's all real. It's true. All of it. Next, we have our good friend Ryan at Raza2594 staying on the Star Wars train saying, when people don't like Star Wars. Yeah, I tend to have that reaction as well.
Yep.
I don't really know many people that don't like Star Wars, but if you don't, that's fine. You're allowed to have that opinion.
Yeah, and if you don't, you probably don't understand our title of our podcast. That's okay.
It's okay. It makes about as much sense as Goop does.
Oy.
That could be another podcast.
That could be a whole series of podcasts.
Indeed. What do we got next?
We have the Force Losers podcast at Force_losers. And they said, when someone coughs in the grocery store.
For real, though.
How about every time I've had to go to the grocery store? I haven't been going to the grocery store in quite some time. I think it's been at least 8 or 9 days since I've been to any store in particular, but I am more aware of how badly I have to sneeze. So that's pretty much the reaction I make when I feel a sneeze coming along. Like, oh, I need to run outside and pretend I don't exist.
Yeah, like I miss normal being out and around people anxiety.
Yes, me too.
The last time that I went to a grocery store, it was just a very eerie 28 days later kind of feeling out there.
Yeah.
Next up, we have A Certain Point of View Pod. Their caption was, "My podcast list is empty right now." Yeah, because I'm listening to a podcast a lot more than usual. I am currently working from home, and I will continue to be working from home for the next month-ish. And when I don't have meetings, I listen to podcasts. So I run out of them rather quickly.
Yes, me too.
What we got next, babe?
Next, we have Benjamin L. Akers at ChinTZY Beatnik. Chintzy Beatnik. Sorry, I just butchered your name. It's my fault. And he said commitment. That one was very funny.
Which I think is especially appropriate for Batman.
Yes, very much so.
That was awesome, Ben. Well done, sir. Next up, we have Cam Ray. When Kylo notices you noticing him in the middle of one of his temper tantrums.
Good one.
Which is great, because all I'm thinking of is that time that he's on the Star Destroyer and he takes out his saber and just starts going ham on some electronic panels and computers, and just everybody around him is just staring in utter shock and horror.
It's definitely worth a take back.
For sure.
Mr. V at thrice627. When the delivery guy sneezes. That's the worst.
This is why you do touchless delivery now.
Absolutely.
Like, just check that box. Everybody's offering it right now.
It's quite wonderful. Not gonna lie.
It's pretty great. Thank you guys so much for participating. We love hearing from y'all.
Yeah, it's really fun to hear y'all's ideas on different little things we send out there. So keep them coming. Faux show.
We love having internet friends. So thank y'all again so much. So, Liv, with this stay-at-home order going on right now, and considering we're not going to be hanging out, what are you going to be up to for the next week?
I have no idea. I'm already going insane. I mean, okay, I'm probably going to bake some, because I really do enjoy baking, and I don't get to do it often. So I'll probably try to do some different breads and different...
Baps.
I thought about Baps. I thought about doing sourdough, but that takes a long time and I'm not patient enough. But there are definitely some pastry endeavors I like to embark on. So I think I might try a couple of those. Definitely going to get some summer intensive work done now that I might as well go ahead and get that taken care of and get it out of the way and get it all finished. But I'll probably definitely listen to some more podcasts. I think I'll reread Harry Potter again just because I can. It just sounds like a good idea. I don't really know. I definitely wasn't anticipating this stay-at-home order to affect seeing you, because in my mind, even the stay-at-home order would not have changed me coming over frequently, because that was my original plan, was getting all of my work done and making sure I took a week off before we either went back to the studio or we did more online classes. And with the fear of tickets, jail time, and misdemeanors being put out there for those who leave their house for non-essential reasons, now I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah, especially since you've finished Clone Wars. Like, you're all caught up now, too.
I know, and now I'm even more like, I'll probably just finish Buffy.
Buffy, yes. Great show. Love Buffy.
I've been in a little bit of a kick with that, and I took a break off of it because Clone Wars, and we got hooked on The Mandalorian, and there were just a bunch of different things that we were watching together that put Buffy on the back burner. So I'll probably finish out Buffy. I will probably watch Eliza Schlesinger's newest show that she just put out. It's like a comedy sketch show. It kind of gives me Saturday Night Live vibes, but with her as the main character in all of her sketches. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I've heard not so great things, but I need to experience it myself to make that decision.
She funny, though.
Oh my goodness, she's so funny, though.
I was looking forward to watching that with you.
Yeah, I might just wait. I might just do Buffy, and then when we can get back and see each other, watch it together, because I would much rather watch that with you.
If you're looking for a solid distraction, Eliza is as good a distraction as any.
Yeah, but Buffy.
Yeah, but Buffy.
Like, let's
You're
be
right.
real. Buffy. And I'm really curious because I'm only on like, I think season 3 or 4. I don't think I'm very far.
Things get a lot more real.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. There's a lot more to come.
Yeah, I'm at the point in, if our listener is watching Buffy, I'm behind the times, so I probably not spoil anything. I'm at the point where Angel his soul has pretty much done a factory reset. You like how I did that? That was funny.
Ha! Well done.
Thank you. He's pretty much done a factory reset, and he's back to his old ways. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
As Angelus.
Yes, that's where we're at. And I know there are big events supposed to happen post high school with Buffy and her friends. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. But yeah, so I probably will wait to watch Eliza's show with you and just binge Buffy.
But yeah, for the next week or two, I have nothing planned. Just work, run, editing podcasts.
Yeah, and now that we know this works, we can keep doing podcasts like this until we get to see each other.
Yes. And one thing that's been fun that we've been doing and we would like to continue to do is joining up on these live streams. Those have been pretty fun.
Oh yeah, I think we should consider doing one ourselves.
That could be cool.
I think that would be super fun if we did a live stream. What does our audience think?
What does our audience think?
Would you join us if we did a live stream, a quarantine live stream?
But yeah, so running, podcast, working, trying to stay sane. Unlike you, I will not be interacting with anybody at all during this time.
I'm making a frowny face.
I wouldn't know. I can't see you.
I know. It's sad.
So the introvert in me is happy, but the extrovert in me is sad. Like panicking, sad. But it'll be okay. It'll be short-lived. It'll be better. And things will be great when all this is over. And I'll be able to see you.
But just in general, the more that we take these precautions and make these kinds of sacrifices, the quicker we're going to see the downward curve come to light. And I was watching a press conference with Donald Trump and one of the head government doctors that have been kind of speaking on COVID-19. She was saying that we're looking at potentially seeing the peak within the next couple of days, and that will be the highest it'll get. And then if everything goes as planned, we'll actually get to start seeing that decline in cases, and we'll be able to open up doors again. And plus, the executive order that's on Georgia is only for, I think, 9 more days. So we really only have to get through a week, because I think that's about as much as I'm going to be able to handle. If I can handle that, I might sneak out. Who knows? Go undercover.
This is basically your home too. So
exactly. Yeah.
There's that.
This has been another exciting episode of Pizza and Parsecs. I'm Liv.
I'm Dave. And if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rate and review. And it really goes a long way to getting the word out. We'd really appreciate it.
We really would.
You could check out our show on bit.ly/pizza and parsecs pod, or on your podcasting platform of choice. You can also check us out on our socials at Pizza and Parsecs. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. We'll holler back. I guarantee it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. Look, and if you like what you hear, rate and review, because it helps out small podcasts like ourselves who are just now starting out. We love you, so please love us back. Happy quarantine.
Happy quarantine.
Day 265.